Good morning. How is everybody doing today? It is good to see you. Thanks for coming to the exam review. I see we have Amber in the room, April in the room, Christine Marie is here. Yanan, are you here? John Ramos, who else is here this morning? It's good to see everybody on this Thursday morning. Mhm. So, I suppose all of you want to know about the final exam, huh? So I guess that's why we're here. Let's go ahead and get started on our exam review. Let me go to the whiteboard real quick. Okay, so here's some basic exam information. Basic exam info. It's going to be 60 questions, 75 minutes. There will be multiple choice. There will be matching. There will be true false. There will be some multiple answers, and there is one hotspot question. I am listing the questions in order of frequency. So you're mostly going to get multiple choices. There's going to be some matching and some true false. And I think there are a couple of multiple answers, and there's one hotspot question. So that's the basic format of the exam. It, of course, is going to be cumulative. Includes info from whole book. All right. Any questions so far? Any questions so far? Let's go to chapter 1. All right. It looks to me like chapter 1 is going to have 7 questions. All right. Let's see. My question display. There's one question on correlation versus causation. That's research. And then there is, let's see, Fathers of Psychology. That's actually a matching question. I won't tell you that all the time. Holy cow. All right. I will tell you that this time. And then there's going to be another important 20th century psychologists. And that's going to be like Freud, Bandura, George Miller, B.F. Skinner, those people. And that's also going to be a matching question. Wow, we have 2 matching in the first chapter. And then let's see. 3. And then there are 4 questions. So we have 1 question, 1 question, 1 question, and 4 questions on types of psychologists. Right? So if I told you that Dr. Smith is studies, if I told you that Dr. Smith studied people who have he studies how people store memories, what type of psychologist would Dr. Smith be? Can anybody tell me? He studies how people remember and forget things. What type of psychologist is he? I wonder if you can tell me. And while I wait for the answer, I'm going to go ahead and switch back to the whiteboard. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 questions on chapter 1. Okay? 7 questions on chapter 1. Very good, AK. Cognitive psychologist. Fantastic. And if he was the one that was going to help you lose weight or quit smoking, what type of psychologist? That would be a tough one. I don't know if you're going to be able to guess that one. What type of psychologist would that be? I'll go ahead and wait for the answer for just a second while I take a look at chapter 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then let's see. 6. Okay. 6. Okay. So from chapter 2, there are going to be 6 questions. However, there will be more questions about biopsych from each chapter. Okay? So, for example, in chapter 5, sensation, we'll talk about the occipital cortex, and we may talk about the thalamus. In fact, we will talk about the thalamus. You know what I mean? So, but 6 questions I actually drew from the chapter 2 lesson. Yeah, again, it's a health psychologist. Very good, April. So, do you folks understand what I mean? I've got 6 questions that I actually pulled from the chapter 2 lecture, but in chapter 3, I'll talk about the nervous system. In chapter 6, I'll talk about the nervous system. So, there will be more biological questions, but there are just 6 of them that I am picking from chapter 2 proper, so to speak. So, let me go ahead and close this. I got to leave that one open. Hold on, let me scroll down, folks. Close that one up. Okay. So let's see. There's there's a matching question. There's one question on neurotransmitters. Match with their function. Okay. Then brain damage. Okay. Let's see. And then there are 5 questions on parts of the brain. Wait, did I say 6 questions? I could be wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I take that back. Actually, no, never mind. I'll leave that in the next in its specific chapter. So that's what I'm going to do. You know what? No neuron anatomy. So you will not have to know the axon, the dendrites, and the cell body for this exam. Okay? You are not seeing the book. You should have your own book. I'm writing on the whiteboard right now, Ronnie. You should be seeing me writing, and the book is should be in your hand. Okay. Any questions on chapter 2? Chapter 2. Okay, let's see. 2. All right, let's see. Okay. Let's make sure we don't have any. Nope. Okay. Chapter 3. 2 questions about brain structures related to sleep. Okay, so there we go. We're already getting back into biopsychology, but like I said, these particular brain structures are just related to sleep, and that's where they're talked about. So I kind of wanted to direct you there. Okay. And that's all for chapter 3. chapter 4, developmental psychologist. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, chapter 4, which is developmental psychology. There are 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me look up here. Nope. Okay, very good. So there are only 4 questions in let's see. I take that back. There are 5 questions. 3 of them are on attachment, and 2 of them are on neurodevelopment. Okay, so you should know about myelination and dendritic growth. So it's more biology. See more biopsych. Okay, very good. That's 5 questions. You don't see my whiteboard? How many of you do not see the whiteboard? Ronique says he can't see it, but I'm sitting here looking at it on my live feed. Can most of you see the whiteboard? I can see it. Okay, Ronique, it may be something with you. Okay, cool. Let's see. Okay, chapter 5. Okay, very good. There are 3 questions. Okay, there is 1 hotspot question and 2 matching questions. Okay, let's see. So 1 hotspot question, identify, which the hotspot is where you click on the actual part of the brain. So point to the auditory cortex. I'm going to go ahead and just tell you, okay? I want you to know where the auditory cortex is. I'll show you a picture of the brain. All right, so let's see. With the other 2 matching, okay, match. Okay, 1 question is match lobe to sense, sensory process. Okay, so which lobe of your sensory cortex is responsible for processing vision? Do you know that question, April? Which part of your brain is responsible for processing visual information? Which of the lobes? The frontal, the temporal, the occipital, or the parietal lobe? Which one? A hotspot is where you are asked to click on a picture, Christine. And hotspot is where you're asked to click on a picture. So I will give you a picture of the brain, and I want you to be able to identify the auditory cortex, okay? So you will actually click on the part of the brain that is the auditory cortex. That's what they call a hotspot picture. I didn't pick that name, they picked that name. Okay, and then let's see. And then match the visual areas with their functions. Okay? Very good. Occipital lobe. So that's 3 questions from chapter 5. Uh-oh, excuse me. Let me push that up a little bit. There you go. So you see, we have 3 questions. Point to the auditory cortex, match the lobes to the sensory process, and then match the visual area. So what do the rods and cones do? What does the occipital lobe do? What does the superior colliculus do? What does the thalamus do? Okay? So I got three questions there. All right. Okay. Let's see. Chapter 6. Pull that down just a little bit. Okay. This is behaviorism. Remember, behaviorism. Little Albert. Let me see up here. Okay. So we have 5 questions. Okay. So there's one classical conditioning question. There are 2 operant conditioning questions, I should say. And then there are 2 about applications of behaviorism. And I'm talking about things like phobias, training plans, or taste aversion. All right. And so one question, a general question on classical conditioning, 2 general questions on operant conditioning, and then 2 application questions for chapter 6. Okay. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Chapter 7, which is cognitive. And I have 4 questions. One about chunking. And 3 about parts of the Atkinson, Shiffrin model. Do you folks remember the Atkinson-Shiffrin occipital lobe? I'm sorry, Christine, I just saw your question. Can you go ahead and type that question with a little more detail? What do you want an example of? I'm going to go ahead and go on with chapter 8, but as soon as I see your question more fully written, Christine, I'll be more than happy to answer it. I am so sorry. If I'd have seen it exactly when you wrote it, I might have understood the 1, 2, 1, 2, yeah. Okay. Never mind, I said, oh, okay. Cool. All right. And so, chapter 4, that's chapter 4. I mean, chapter 7. Right? The Atkinson-Shiffrin model. All right. Oh, okay, right, exactly. All right. Okay. Then I have one question. Let's see, from chapter 11. So it doesn't look like I have anything from 8, 9, or 10. Okay. But chapter 11, the autonomic nervous system. You know what? Actually, you can find this also in chapter 2. And that's under PNS versus the CNS. And then we have sympathetic and parasympathetic. I don't know if you remember that from chapter 2. We talked about it briefly in chapter 2, and then I talked about it again in chapter 11 with stress. Is somebody still hearing a bad echo? Is anyone hearing an echo in here? Ah. Why didn't you tell me? I would have fixed that. Let's see, which mic is on? Is that mic? There you go. That's better, right? My goodness. Why didn't you tell me? Ah. I am so sorry. I wish you folks had told me earlier. There's only one chapter 11 question, Christine, and that chapter 11 question is to be able to know what the difference between these structures are. Okay? Okay. Oh, the echo was only for a minute. Okay, good. BASF Tech. I'm not sure what that is, Tiffany, but thank you. Okay, good. Well, it wasn't the whole time then. All right. I accidentally turned a mic on. That's what it was. All right, so let's go to chapter 12. Let's go to chapter 12. Chapter 12 was social psychology. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Oh, okay. I see what I've got. Let's see. I was wrong with that. So we do have stuff from chapter 11. I'm sorry. I've got my test broken up into multiple parts, so it's a little confusing. Yep, sure enough. Chapter 10. One question. Primary versus secondary sex characteristics. One question. Chapter 10 is the sex chapter. Okay. Chapter 11 is motivation and emotion. I'm sorry, I goofed that up when I said there was only one question. Okay, actually, there is 1, 2. No, wait a minute. 1, 2. Okay, so let's see. 1. Okay, so there's also, all right, so let's go back. This chapter 11, one question on the autonomic nervous system. Let's see, 10, 11. 9 is sex. Is 9 sex? 9 is the sex chapter. I'm sorry. Chapter 9 is the sex chapter. Chapter 10 is where is my stinking textbook? Where is my stinking textbook? Oh, crud. Hold on, folks. Let me go find it. Actually, no, I'm not going to go find it because I will screw this up. Let's just go motivation and emotion. I'll scratch that out. Motivation and emotion. So there is 1 on the ANS versus the autonomic nervous system versus autonomic. Let's see. The parts of the autonomic nervous system parts. Okay. Then there is, let's see, one question on, okay, so it's chapter 9. Chapter 10 is chapter 10. Okay. Then that means that chapter 11 is motivation and emotion, correct? I know I'm getting all confused here. All right, so let's see. 1 on the parts of the ANS, 1 on brain part for hunger, right? There has, let's see, health and well-being. Where's motivation? Is motivation number 9? Okay, I got them mixed up. Okay. Okay. Very 1 part for hunger. Let's see. Okay, good enough. I just got those confused for a little bit. There is 1 question on intrinsic versus extrinsic motivators. Then there is 1 question on brain parts and emotion. Remember I talked about the amygdala and the frontal lobe? And frontal lobe, you know, hypothalamus, over here, hypothalamus. Let's see, 1. Intrinsic versus extrinsic. And then I've got 1 question on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 questions on chapter 9. 1 question on chapter 10. You know what? and then one question on chapter 11, stress. Okay. There we go. So now I got it right. There we go. One question on 9, 5 questions on 10, one question on 11. Okay. 1, 2. Okay. And then chapter 12 is social psych. And I have 2 questions about Milgram and one question about Solomon Asch and his line judging. Okay. Let's see. And then what question is that? Yeah. Oh, okay. You know what? Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Then let's go to chapter 13, which is going to be the self, right? Two questions about, for 12, 2 questions about Stanley Milgram. 2 questions about Stanley Milgram. Remember, Stanley Milgram is the person that did the shock learning study that showed that people are willing to shock another person on the orders of somebody in charge. So 3 questions for chapter 12. All right. Okay, I'm going to carry on unless you ask again, Christine. Okay. Chapter 13, which is personality. Let's see, 1, 4. Okay, I've got 5 questions. It looks like 5 questions. Okay. And it looks like there's a question about projective versus self-report tests. Two question about the Big 5. And 2 questions about general approaches to personality. Right? Remember, there's the psychodynamic. Then there's the behavioral approach. And then there's the social cog approach. More specific on the first one, you need to know who Stanley Milgram is. You need to know what his study was about and you need to know what he discovered about people's willingness to follow an authority. So he's featured heavily in chapter 12, or he's not featured heavily, but there's a feature of him in chapter 12 and also in my notes. Christine, you should be able to find it. Okay, so that's 5 questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And big 5 is going to be like, tell me what trait I'm describing. Okay, so you need to know the big 5 traits. Know the big 5 traits. Okay. Okay. All right, let's see. Mm-hmm. Okay. There's a question about the diathesis stress model. There's 2 questions about the characteristics of mental disorders. Remember, there are, I think we wrote down 4 qualities, right? It is odd, it is self-defeating, scares other people, and it causes distress. Remember that? And I said that psych disorders actually are very sort of, it's a vague definition. And there was even a PowerPoint slide where I went over that. So you're going to have 2 questions on the characteristics of those disorders. You're going to have 1 question on the diathesis stress model. Let's see. 1 question on types of treatment professionals. You know what I mean? So that's psychiatrist versus psychologist versus counselor. Remember that. Okay. And then let's see. You know what? I take that back. There are going to be 2 questions on that. 2 questions on that. Then there's a question on bipolar. Ah. 1 question on bipolar. 1 question on depression. And 1 question on schizophrenia. Okay. And then let me see this question right here. sorry about that. I started hitting some buttons. I typed an answer in. I forgot. I've got a bunch of hotkeys programmed on my keyboard. I'm sorry. Okay. Chapter 15. I need one more keyboard for my setup here. I don't quite have the technology set up that I want to have set up. Okay, so we're on chapter 15. Treatment. Treatment. Let's see. Full text. Okay. One question. One question on, let's see, there's a question on, okay, two general questions on types of talk therapy. Remember we talked about psychodynamic, behavioral, and we talked about cognitive behavioral therapy. Remember we had three. We talked about those three methods, and I've got two general questions. Okay. Let's see. There's a question on. Uh, uh, there's one question on lithium. There's there's a question on treating type 1 versus type 2 bipolar. Bipolar. Okay. And there are two questions on antidepressants. And there's one question on the use of antipsychotic medication. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 questions. Exactly. Right, about it being toxic. Very good question. Right. You know what I find, Amber, is I can't write and talk at the same time. You see, I make lots of mistakes and and stuff like that. For some reason, I can't run my mouth and run my hand at the same time. It's very difficult for me. Okay. So we are now back to me. Do you have any more questions about the exam? Since it's a final exam, it's kind of spread out, and I've got everything in different categories, and so it's harder for me to give you a chapter by chapter. This is how many questions. This is how many questions, because my exam is sort of spread out. I could explain to you how we make the exams up and what the little features like, but they come in question sets, and so you have different sets that you use. So, can I be any more specific? No, you cannot get 2 attempts. Can you be? I was pretty specific. Um, so I just told you the danger of using lithium. You should. That's the question. The danger of using lithium. Uh, when I ask you to tell me what big 5 traits I'm describing, I'm literally going to give you a description of a trait. So Marcus gets angry and anxious quite easily. He always thinks people are out to get him, and he worries an awful lot. What type of personality trait are we describing? Um, and let's see, the question, like I said, on the hot spot for the sensory question, I want you to be able to tell me where the auditory cortex is. Um, let's see. Uh, I do want you to know what William James, Gustav Fechner, and and um, Fechner and the lab in Leipzig. We got Fechner, Wundt's lab. I want you to know what those 3 guys did in the creation of psychology. So I was fairly specific in this on the medication questions. On the medication questions. Um, let's see. Um, yeah, the advantage of uh, actually, the advantage of atypical over typical uh, antipsychotics is the question. Um, and then if you're the difference in medication styles between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. So both of those kinds of bipolars get lithium for the mood swings, but what extra drug does bipolar 1 get and what extra drug does bipolar 2 get when you're treating people with bipolar disorder? Um, and then depression, the depression question, what is the antidepressant? Uh, oh, um, yeah, just basically, wow, it's just a general question that you ought to be able to answer even if you haven't taken this class. I give you a trade name for a drug, and you have to tell me what type of drug it is. No short answer. No, absolutely not. There are going to be 60. No, there will not be examity for the exam. We will not be using a proctoring tool. Uh, the question, it is 60 questions long, uh, mostly multiple choice, a good number of matching questions, um, and let's see, a few true false questions, um, and 1 or 2 other styles of questions, but there will be no short answer or writing. Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions? You're going to do fine on this exam, um, and hopefully, I'm sure you're going to do fine. All right. Much better than my past other professors studying all 15 chapters. Right, I'll at least try to get a little more specific. I know sometimes I'm disorganized and I make mistakes, uh, but I at least try to be sensitive and give a lot of information when I can. All right, it's been great having all of you in class. Thank you very much for your great attendance at these YouTube lectures. You didn't receive any extra credit for coming to these, so I hope that you found them valuable enough uh, to spend your own time. Or actually, I'm glad that you found them valuable enough to use your very busy schedule to participate. I really appreciate it, and I think that you're a great group of students. Look forward to seeing you in the future. If you ever need any help in terms of recommendations for the next school, I am always happy to write recommendations and references to help you make it to the next level. Okay? You folks have a great day, and I will see you soon. Bye.